Hello, loyal OSATers. Today is the Sunday the 19th of July, and it's been ages and ages since I've had a chance to talk to you, and I've really missed it. I've missed you all. I've been incredibly busy, gadding about all over the place, not spending a great deal of time in the country, so it's not been possible to record according to my usual schedule, so I'm sorry about that. So how are you? How have you been since, it's been nearly a month since my last episode, 25th of June I think it was, and so much has happened, so much. There's been quite a lot of good feedback about my last episode and the fact that I was using two cameras to sort of give a different perspective, so I'll continue doing that. I really enjoy the challenge of getting the two things to work. So this time I'm using my iPad to record, second unit over here, rather than my MacBook, and I'm hoping that the camera quality will match up better, and I'm hoping the frame rate will be more similar as well, which will make things a lot easier in editing. It wasn't a great deal of fun before trying to line everything up and make it sync. Once I started off a certain clip. There's my sirens again. Loud ones today. I started off lining everything up completely, and a couple of minutes in, when I wanted to cut back to the other camera, like this, life was not good, and everything was out of sync, and everything needed to be moved again. So, podcaster problems, who cares? You don't need to know, you just want to enjoy the finished product. That I understand. So let's crack on. There's so much I want to share with you. Here's my roundup of what I've been doing and the reason I have not been able to record for you. Going back, and it seems like such a long time ago now, at the end of June, it was my drama college 20-year anniversary since graduating. That's a statistic that kind of blows my mind. 20 years since we all were together at drama college, learning the things we were learning, becoming the people we've become, and making some of the closest connections I've ever known with anybody. Many of my closest friends today are still the friends I made when I was at drama college, and it was quite incredible. We all got together on a little place in the South Bank in London, and there were 22 of us there, which I think 20 years on is not bad going at all, to get 22 people in the same place at the same time. We had amazing times. It was incredible to see how we all sort of fitted back into the same behaviour patterns, the same crazy crude humour, the same ways of behaving with each other. It was like 20 years just sort of melted away, and it was really, really special. There were some people there that I hadn't seen since the day we left. A couple of surprise guests. One chap, Graham, who had seemed to have disappeared off the face of the earth. He doesn't have an online presence at all, so he was really difficult to track down. But one of the girls who was organising everything did manage to get hold of him through a place that he had worked many, many years ago, and somehow managed to get hold of him, and he was there, so that was a real treat. And another friend of mine, Ross, German visitors, German watchers, you'll know him as Ross Anthony. He is a TV presenter and singer. He was in the band Brosis, and he won the German version of I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, and became King of the Jungle. He was on my course. I know him as Ross Catterall, that's his real name, and I haven't seen him for 10 years since he showed up as a surprise guest at my 30th birthday party organised by one of our other mutual friends, and it was lovely to see him and his husband Paul and their new little boy, who is absolutely gorgeous. So many surprises and so many wonderful things, brilliant memories coming back, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a real trip down memory lane. A couple of people had said that they were quite nervous of going in and seeing everybody. I wasn't nervous at all. I was really excited. I've got, I guess, nothing but happy memories of my time at drama college, which was from 92 to 95. So 3 very formative years, from 18 to 21 in my life, and it was just a joy. There were some sad moments as well. Last year we lost one of our alumni who tragically took her own life because of some mental health problems. So that was very, very sad. It was the first time we'd sort of all got together to be able to acknowledge that. And she was the first of our lot to leave us. So it was nice actually to get together and sort of raise a glass to Jo's memory. But so many people there with children, with different perspectives, people growing up and moving on. A lot of people have stopped performing for many reasons, mostly through choice. Many of the reasons are because people have had families and their perspectives and priorities change. And some people have just decided it's not really for them. They want a little bit more stability. And it was really interesting to see, sort of 10 years ago we had a similar reunion, and back then we were all kind of 30 or 30-ish, and people were still very much sort of aiming high and trying to further their careers, and at 40 people have changed. Ben, my husband, often says that by the time you reach 40 you are the person that you're going to be. And that's not to say that you can't make changes in your life, but people settle a bit more at 40. I feel it. I feel that I'm a lot more comfortable with who I am as a now 41-year-old. But I'm a different person than I was when I was 30 or 31. And it is interesting to see how people's lives and perspectives have changed. And talking of changing perspective, let's go over here. But it was such a treat to see everybody and catch up. There's a lot of us, as I say, that are still very close and see each other very regularly, but there are people that we see less frequently, and it was nice to really get together and see those people en masse, and we had a fantastic time. Then, a couple of days later, it was my birthday. My 41st birthday happened on June 30th, and Ben and I had planned to go down to Brighton, and we were going to take our friend Abby down as well, and just the three of us were going to spend a lovely day. So I thought. Ben had said, and I should have cottoned on to something being afoot, but he had said that that he had booked a table for lunch, so we needed to be at a certain place at a certain time. This is not like Ben at all. Ben and I, generally when we go places, it's very free and easy, and when we're hungry, we'll find somewhere to eat. So it didn't really register that was unusual. It probably should have done. So we arrived in Brighton and had a lovely time wandering around. We found a lovely yarn shop, and more about that later in Stash Enhancement. Can you guess what I got for my birthday? And then Ben was saying, we've got to get to the restaurant for lunch because our table's booked for 12:30. I was like, oh, okay, right, fine. So we brought everything to a speedy conclusion and went along to this lovely restaurant. And as soon as I walked in, the penny dropped, because the first two people I saw were my aunt and uncle, Jimmy and Maggie. Now they live in Brighton, so that wasn't necessarily such a huge stretch, but then I saw my mum sitting next to them, who is Uncle Jimmy's sister, and her partner Ron, and I knew then that something had been planned in my ignorance. And then there was our friend Hilary, who doesn't live a million miles away, and her son Jago, and it was all very, very lovely. So we all sat down, giving of gifts and having lovely times. And then, later arrivals, my sister and her partner Julius arrived on their motorbikes down from North Wales. They're both Harley drivers. They go off down to the south of France on their Harleys and all sorts of things. And they arrived as well, so we had a proper family gathering, and it was it was just really special. I felt I felt honoured, and I felt loved, and I felt happy, and it was a really beautiful day. We then went down to the beach, and my mum had brought a little picnic of strawberries and cream, and there's a little photograph of gorgeous strawberries and cream here on the beach. It was one of the hottest days. It was that really brief period where we had a proper heat wave in England. In fact, the week afterwards we reached the hottest July day on record and the hottest day overall for 10 years. So this was the beginnings of it. It was gorgeous. We went swimming in the sea. It was cold. I mean, the sea off the coast of England is always cold, but once you got past that, really refreshing, bracing. We had a great time. One of the highlights was this, down to the beach. This beach goes like this, and down to the water's edge it goes really. There's a sharp escarpment, and it's all pebbles, and so it's quite difficult to walk on because your feet sink in and you sort of slide down. And we'd gone down to the beach where we had the strawberries and cream, and my mum tried to get back up. Poor woman, so undignified, she completely was unable to cope. And at one point, there was Julius pulling her from the front, me behind, with my hands on her bum, pushing her up. She was screeching with laughter, starting to sweat from the effort, and loads of people all around were looking over. And I mean, my mum, she's brilliant. She's not embarrassed by this kind of stuff at all. She just looked at this group of young people and she said, "Are you laughing at me? Are you looking at me and laughing at my misfortune?" And they were cackling away. So that's one of my enduring memories from my birthday. And then, not long after that, so I'm going to try and keep this as short as possible, but there's so much I want to tell you. You'll kind of know that I'm not very good at keeping things short, so just sort of buckle up, enjoy the ride, and I'll see you somewhere at the end. On the 4th of July, Ben and I flew to Los Angeles, and it was very, very exciting. We didn't expect to be able to do such a thing. We're not the richest people in the world at the moment, and we certainly don't have money for flights to somewhere decadent like LA. However, when we got married, nearly 18 months ago, a very good friend of ours was not able to come to the wedding, but he lives in LA, and he said to us that he wanted to fly us out there to stay with him as his wedding present to us. How exciting is that? How incredibly generous, first and foremost, but amazing. And it's taken us this long to put the plan into action. At first, Ben and I sort of didn't want to take him up on the offer. We thought, well, maybe that's something that you can say quite glibly and then hope doesn't come to anything. But he kept saying, "When are you coming? When are you coming? Remember, I want to pay for your tickets," and making it quite clear that that was something he wanted to do. And because he's a Brit living in LA, I think for him it's quite nice to have English visitors as well. So it was something he wanted, and he wanted to give us something wonderful. What an amazing gift. So a couple of weeks ago we planned it. We should have gone to visit him in LA last September when we went to San Francisco for our honeymoon. But that's when I got ill with pneumonia, and we were supposed to be driving down the coast to LA and spending a few days there at his house, but I got too sick to travel, and we couldn't do it, so those plans had to be cancelled. So this was a return visit. We flew into LA on our way home from San Francisco just to pick up a connecting flight, but so all I had seen was the inside of LAX, but this was our first proper visit. Neither one of us had been there before. And it's strange because Ben and I didn't really have a concept of what LA is, what it can offer. And we were always interested to see new cities, but people have often said that it can be a bit soulless, it can be all about sort of driving and the fakery of the movie industry. And we were interested to see for ourselves, but we didn't really know whether it was going to be the kind of place for us. Well, we had an amazing time. Boy, were we busy. I've got some notes down here because there's lots of things I want to share with you that we got up to. We arrived on the 4th of July, which of course in America is Independence Day from us, but still a big celebration. And Matt had organised a party that evening at his house, and it was really, really lovely. Some Americans there, but quite a few Brits abroad. A whole variety of people, and he's got a lovely pool, and of course the weather there is glorious this time of year. So we hung American flags around, and there was lots of food. We had Chinese food actually. It wasn't particularly American, but really, really lovely. And oh, hello, there we are. I'd forgotten I was over there. And we were tired because of course there's an 8-hour time difference between the UK and the west coast of America. So we got incredibly sleepy, but we were sort of wired from the flight and from getting over there. And it was really nice to see a bit of Matt's life over there and his friends, and we all swam in the pool. And he's got 2 dogs as well, 2 gorgeous dogs, a chocolate lab and a sort of lab German Shepherd cross, and they are just the most, they're the most lovely creatures. They are such good-natured dogs, and they came in the pool with us. They just sort of jump in, and they were a little bit obsessive in their behaviour with a particular toy, which is this like squishy bee. It's like a round, fluffy bee, and it was becoming disgustingly slobbery. But you sort of throw it to them, they dive in the water, and they sort of race to try and get it. And if one got it, then the other one would take it out of his mouth, and the other one would take it back, and they would do this game again and again and again. And the joy is there's a very, very shallow end of the pool, which is only sort of about knee height. So it's great for the dogs. They can swim up to that point and easily get onto that and easily get out. So there's no danger of them over-tiring themselves. So they're perfectly safe. I've never been in water with a dog before. It was a very surreal experience. Is this normal? Do people with dogs and pools often have the dogs swimming in the pools? I don't know. Maybe it's just a little quirk of this particular household. I'm not sure. So there wasn't a great deal to do that day. We had a party, we were shown around the house, and had a thoroughly lovely time doing that. On the Sunday, which was the next day, now jet lag works in our favour when we go west, because we were kind of up bright and early, because in our heads it was already the middle of the afternoon, and even though we hadn't had a great deal of time in bed, we were like, body clock was like zing, ready to play with the day, which was great. And on the Sunday we went up to the Griffith Observatory. Now the views from there are quite spectacular. You get amazing views over Hollywood Park and the city. But there's a planetarium there, and I've never been to a planetarium show before. So we saw 2 of the little presentations that they do, and you sit in these chairs. They're really reclining chairs. They take you far back. You're almost horizontal, and the ceiling is this huge dome. The projections of the shows are on there. It's really beautiful. They've got this extraordinary star projector, as well as the sort of the video projectors, and it's got Carl Zeiss optics, and it's this huge, great big thing with thousands of different lenses, and it shines incredibly accurate pinpricks of light in exactly what the constellations of the stars as we see them from Earth. So that was very, and it does its rotations to keep everything in line with the rotation of the Earth, so you see it from different parts of the day. It's quite brilliant, and it looks very, very space age. And then there's all sorts of other projections, and it's just beautiful. It's really, really beautiful. Very, very interesting. We saw 2 of the presentations there. While we were there, we did have a rather sort of unpleasant experience, but quite comical in its extreme nature. Ben was taking a photograph of us. We were there. There was Matt and another friend of his called Luke, who was staying with him, and the 2 of us. And Ben was taking a picture of the 3 of us, and he sort of stepped back to frame the picture, and very gently nudged his elbow into the elbow of a woman who was coming sort of behind him. She shrieked, "Oh my God!" And Ben was, of course, horrified in case he'd really hurt this woman. He said, "Oh my goodness," he said, "Are you okay?" And she didn't answer him. She just looked wounded and angry, holding onto her elbow. And her husband came over, carrying their child, and it seemed to me that he might be used to this kind of behaviour from her, because he didn't seem particularly concerned. He just said, "Is everything okay?" And she was holding something, and she said, "You're going to have to take this. I'm losing all my grip." It was the most overdramatic thing, and then just went down the stairs. The husband didn't say anything. He was like, whatever. She was clearly a nut job, but it just left us completely stunned at the overreaction. I mean, even if you tap someone on the funny bone, you just, it goes, jar. And you go, no problem, it's just an accident. Not so. So that was great. We sort of got trapped while we were up there trying to get a cab to get down, because it was a Sunday and it was very, very busy, and what we didn't realise was they closed all the roads. So we were using the Uber app, and cab after cab was cancelling the journey after leaving us stranded for 15 minutes at a time, the cab would just go, cancelled journey. There was no indication why, and it was only when we started talking to the rangers on site that we learnt that the roads leading up to the observatory had been closed because of busy traffic. So we set off walking down, and it was chaos. It was absolute chaos. There were car traffic jams everywhere, and we had a cab that was sort of on its way, and we were trying to get down past the roadblocks so that we could get to where it turned out, this wonderful driver called Svetlana, who was brilliant, and we loved her. We eventually found her while we were walking through a tunnel, and she arrived because we knew what her car registration number was going to be through the app, and we got in, and she managed to take us home. She was sparky and she was brilliant. She was from Bulgaria. She'd been living in LA for a few years, and we got on really, really well. And she told us, she was asking what we wanted to do while we were there, and Ben and I had said one of the touristy things we wanted to do was to go and visit the Hollywood sign. Well, she gave us some very useful information about something we could do that was not just going up to the sign, but I'll tell you more about that later on when we get to that particular day. So that was most of Sunday, and then in the evening Matt had arranged for us to go and have a really lovely dinner with some other friends of his, people who we'd met at the party before, at Soho House. Now, I don't know if you know Soho House, but it's really rather swanky. And Soho House in Hollywood is really quite special. You walk, it's on the top floor of this really tall building, and it's the restaurant is the whole of the top floor. And actually, that's not quite true. It's one end of it. You walk down this long corridor to get to it. Really long. It's like something out of Willy Wonka's chocolate factory or something like that. But you walk down this corridor and you go into the restaurant, and it's full of trees. And they can open up the sides of the restaurant almost completely, so you feel like you're in some kind of rooftop garden, but it's got a roof on it, and it's full of trees, and there's a little pond in the middle, and the tables all around. It's really, really very, very lovely, and we had some wonderful food there. And felt very special. We got into a little bit of trouble because it was so nice. We wanted to take photographs and had completely forgotten that there's a no photographs rule in Soho House. So we did get into a little bit of bother, but I've got some photographs, and here they are. So you can see all the trees, and you can see the foliage around. It was just gorgeous. So that was Sunday. Then on Monday we took a trip down to Venice Beach. We wanted to see. It was a really interesting example of seeing a completely different side of the city. We were staying in West Hollywood, which is lovely, really, really nice, right in the middle of the gay area, just not far from Santa Monica Boulevard, which is the main strip where it's just rainbow flags all over the place. And for me and Ben, who are such sort of, I guess, activists and such promoters of equality when it comes to LGBT rights, to go to a place which is so open about its acceptance of and its inclusion of the gay community, and restaurants that weren't even gay run were displaying gay flags. It feels safe, and it feels like we have a haven where we can be ourselves and relax, and without having to worry about what other people might be thinking, which is, that's valuable. It counts for a lot, and the West Hollywood area is lovely, but we wanted to go somewhere completely different. So down to Venice Beach, which is it's bohemian, it's alternative. There's the board with beautiful white sandy beaches, but it's really kind of odd. Everyone's got dreadlocks and loads of tattoos and wearing tie-dye shirts, and there's a lot of green doctors trying to sell you permits. Now, the green doctors, if you don't know, are people who can license the medicinal use of cannabis, which is legal in California for medicinal purposes only. But it seems there are these green doctors who are out there encouraging you to purchase a permit. For $40, they will assess your needs. Now, I don't know what kind of questions they ask. I suspect it's probably something as arbitrary as, do you suffer anxiety? Do you have stress in your life? Here you go, here's your permit. it may be a little bit more complex than that, but it seemed more of a commercial enterprise. It was fascinating to see. And we also found the premises of a tattoo parlour called House of Ink. Now, obviously, I'm covered in tattoos, so that's an interest of mine, but there's a TV show called Tattoos After Dark, which is set in 2 LA tattoo parlours, and it's outrageous. It's all about what happened, what the type of people that walk into tattoo parlours in the middle of the night. They're often drunk, they're asking for outrageous things, the kind of things that even I, as a lover of tattoos, would say, what were you thinking? But we found the outside. That was a fun little tourist thing to do. And then we walked on from Venice Beach up to Santa Monica Beach, and we went on the pier. And we went into the amusement arcades and played stupid games. This coin dozer thing, which is you put these tokens in and it pushes them off the thing, and there's other things that fall out. And if you get certain numbers of tokens, then you can win a prize. Well, we put a lot of money. Matt put a lot of money in, because I think he's slightly obsessed with this game. He loves it, and that was one of the reasons why we wanted to go there. And it's a Wizard of Oz themed game, so it's a little bit gay. And we managed to get 1 set of tokens, so we have like all 7 characters. We had the lion, we had Dorothy, we had the witch, we had Glinda, we had the Scarecrow and the Tin Man, and Toto. And we got the token with all of those, which means a bumper stack of prizes later on. And we had enough that we got like 4 Minion cuddly toys, because Minions, it seems, are everywhere at the moment. I'm starting to get a little bit bored with them, except one piece of genius Minion marketing was I saw some Minion Tic Tacs, and of course Tic Tacs are the right shape to be Minions, so they're little yellow Tic Tacs with eyes and stuff on them. Minions. Good call. Then that evening, now, in terms of dining somewhere posh, we had dinner at the Beverly Wilshire. Now, if you don't know what the Beverly Wilshire is, you've probably never seen the film Pretty Woman. And if you have seen the film Pretty Woman, then you'll know that it's set at the Beverly Wilshire. There's a fantastic steak restaurant called The Cut, and Matt took us there. The 4 of us were there, Luke, Matt, Ben and me. And we had, genuinely, I'm not a huge steak fan, because I'm not much of a meat eater. Of course, Ben isn't a meat eater at all, he's vegetarian, so he had something completely different. But I had a filet mignon steak, which was probably about that big, but really quite thick, and it was genuinely the most delicious steak I've ever had. Now it's fair to say that my experience of steak is quite limited, but I've eaten steak in the past. This was so delicious. It was charred around the outside and obviously flavoured with some kind of amazing marinade, and it was so flaky and crispy on the outside and so deliciously tender on the inside. I have my steaks medium to well done because I don't like it too pink, and this was absolutely perfect. Yeah, really, really delicious. And I was a little bit worried because I can be a bit squeamish about meat, but this was really delicious, and I was thoroughly enjoying every single mouthful. So again, a really, really wonderful, lovely dinner. Then we go, Tuesday. No, this was, that was Tuesday. I don't know where I am in the week. You must be so bored with hearing about my story, but my holiday, but I've got so much I want to share. I had such a wonderful time. On the Tuesday, Ben and I started off by walking from West Hollywood through Hollywood and into the area where the Walk of Fame is, on the stars that you see on the pavement. Apparently there's about 3,600 of them. We had no idea quite what an area it covers, and we walked, I think, the whole length. They're on both sides of the road, and for the longest part we were only on one side of the road, but for the other bits we were going up one bit and down the other side, and up one bit and down the other side. And then we thought, you know what, this road is the direction home, so we'll just go on the one side, we won't go back. But we found all of the ones we really wanted to see. The one I was most keen to see was Gene Kelly. Found his star. We found Judy Garland, naturally, and Angela Lansbury. Everybody you can possibly think of. I was surprised, actually, that several people, many people there have more than one star. Each of the stars has the person's name and then a little symbol underneath, which could be a movie camera if they're famous for being in the movies. It could be a microphone if they're a famous recording artist. It could be a television. But some people, of course, are famous for more than one genre. And so it seems that they can have more than one star. Bob Hope, it would appear, has 4 stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Now this strikes me as a little odd, not because I don't think Bob Hope is worth 4 stars, he's an extraordinary man, but there's so little room, and some of the places the stars are kind of doubling up rather than just one at a time. And it strikes me that could they not combine the symbols onto and have different layouts, just have one person who is famous for this, this, this and this on one star. That to me would make sense. But it was great, and it took us through the really sort of touristy part of central Hollywood, past the Chinese cinema, which is mentioned at the beginning of Singing in the Rain, and it was fun to see it. That's not the part of the city that Ben and I enjoyed the most, I have to say, because it is just rammed with tourists, and Ben and I quite like to do the things that are a little bit sideways when it comes to famous stuff, which is what we went on to do. Now, I had been challenged by Dan from the Bakery Bears. I don't know if you're watching, Dan. I'm going to be getting in touch with you later today to tell you about what I did. So that's a little bit for Dan only. So I rose to his challenge and achieved it. I don't want to talk about that here. I'll talk about that when I've spoken to him. But then, this was so exciting. Ben and I and Luke went to the bottom end of the LA River. Now, this isn't a river like you and I would know it. Certainly, we UK people would know it. It's a concrete river, essentially dry river. I guess it must, maybe in winter it may have some water running through it, but certainly this time of year there's just a little trickle. However, it is one of the most famous places I could possibly have imagined. If you are a fan of the movie Grease, you will absolutely know it as Thunder Road, which is the place where the car race happens towards the end, just before Sandra has her little epiphany and decides that she needs to change if she wants to fit in with the gang. Dubious morals there for a movie, but of its time perhaps. However, it's such an iconic location. Ben particularly was really, really keen to find it. So we did quite a lot of research, looking on YouTube and looking on Wikipedia and looking on Google Maps to try and sort of triangulate where exactly the filming had taken place, and we thought we'd managed to pinpoint it. It turns out we were right. We were in exactly the right place. So we arrived down in downtown LA, which is sort of a little bit rough and can be a little bit scary. We were driving a rather nice car, and I have to say, we were a little bit nervous of leaving it, wondering if we got back, whether it would be there at all, or whether it would have no wheels and be propped up on bricks, or would be broken into. And that was not an unfounded fear. The car was fine. It was not an unfounded fear, because when we were wandering around the area, there's a lot of rubbish and hypodermic syringes sort of littering around. It's quite a rough area. That didn't stop us. We're not frightened of that. And we found a bridge that goes over the river, and we thought, well, let's have a look, and we can at least see down into it. And we did, and it was so amazing to see it from that perspective, because it is so recognisable, that we thought, well, if we can't get down into it, because who knows whether we can or not, at least we'll have been able to see it, and that's, the box ticked, and we've done our risen to our own challenge. But as we were looking down over the bridge, we could see that there were some people walking, and in fact there was a car driving down on the base of the river, so to drive it. And as we watched them, we could see that under the next bridge along, the car sort of turned and disappeared into the water. There's a tunnel. So from where we were standing, we could kind of see how to get to it. We got back in the car, drove down, really scary spot, because we were parked under a bridge where there was old mattresses and discarded sofas. It was probably somebody's nighttime home for people who didn't have another home to go to. So it was starting to get a little bit edgy, but still we were brave enough or foolish enough to pursue our quest, and we found the entrance to this tunnel that led right down into the river base. As we were walking down it, this enormous voice started yelling at us, and he sounded like a pirate. "Ah, this is my home!" It's like, oh gosh, and we looked up, and there was a homeless person who was sort of screaming at us over the walls of this tunnel as we were walking into it. We thought, well, this is it. This is the point where we get knifed. And he carried on making these awful noises. But we thought, well, you know, other people have been here. It's not like we're trespassing on private property. And if it is private property, it's not his private property. I know that sounds a little bit like we're trying to discount his rights, and I don't mean that at all, but I thought, well, we have a right to be there as well. So we continued, hearts beating a little bit, and he didn't bother us at all. I think he just wanted to he probably enjoyed making us jump, and all credit to him because he certainly achieved that. So we got into the basin of the river, and it was like being in the movie. I think it's been used for many, many. I'm sure I've seen that same location in plenty of films as well. But what was really lovely about it was just to sort of be there. The weather was gorgeous. It looked exactly the same as it did. The lighting conditions looked the same as they are in Greece. And it's the point where Sandra sings to herself. Ben and I decided we wanted to recreate that moment. And here it is.
Hold your head high, take a deep breath and cry goodbye to Sandra. Deep.
Now, for anyone who doesn't really know the movie that well, the reason why we're running away at the end is because Olivia Newton-John, who incidentally gave us a little video message for our wedding, so we feel we have a special connection with her. She runs away. Now, it turns out, when we went back to the house and watched the YouTube clip of this part of the film, it turns out we were sitting on the wrong side of the river from where she recorded that bit, and actually where she runs off to, and I'll link to the clip actually underneath, or on Ravelry, so you can watch the little clip on YouTube. But where she runs off to is the tunnel that we had entered by, so we were in exactly the right place, but just on the other side of the river. We wouldn't have been able to get there because there was water flowing across, and we'd have got too wet. But it was so it was close enough, and I hope you enjoyed our little version of Goodbye to Sandra D. So that was our Wednesday day, and in the evening we went to a restaurant called the Ivy, and I can't give away too many names, but we were there with a good friend of our host who is currently quite a well-known movie actor, and she was getting quite a lot of attention in the restaurant, which was interesting actually. It's interesting to see how different people deal with that. I've been around many people over the years who are famous and get recognised in the street, and you know, it can be hard because some people are just rude. Some people are really, really rude. Some people are lovely, and they'll come over and they'll be really sweet and say, "I'm sorry to bother you. I'm a big fan of your work. I wondered if you would mind signing this, or can I take a photograph?" And I think that nobody minds that. I think that's really the right way to go about it. But some people just can be really unpleasant about it, or they'll just sort of rudely take your photograph from a distance and not ask permission. And that's quite hard to witness when it's somebody, when you're in the same party and you sort of want to protect people. I've had that myself, not because I'm in any way famous, But often when I'm knitting on the tube, I'll see people sort of bringing up their phones. I mentioned this before, bringing up their phones and surreptitiously pretending they're doing something else, but you know they're taking my picture. And I don't mind, but I just wish they'd be upfront about it. A couple of weeks ago, I was on the tube and I was knitting, and the woman who was sitting opposite me, she got up out of her chair and came to sit next to me, and I thought, oh, she wants to talk about my knitting. And actually, she said, excuse me, and I said, hello, and she said, would you mind if I took your photograph? And I said, oh no, not at all. And so she went back and sat there and she sort of lined it up and took my picture. And she said she'd never seen a man knitting before. She was Chinese, so maybe it's different for her culture at home. But she'd never seen a man knitting before, and it was fascinating to her. But she very politely asked. Couldn't have asked for more than that. It was really polite and kind of her, and honest and upfront and human. And I think when someone is famous, people forget that they're also human beings. And yes, lovely though it is to... Here's the thing, people become famous because they put themselves in the public eye more often than not, and they try to build a career, and along with that comes the recognition. So it sits awkwardly for me when famous people whinge about being famous. However, the downside of that is people can start to treat them very badly. And I think that's where a line needs to be drawn. It's not fair to assume that just because someone's famous that they are actually your property, except when they are putting themselves in your line of eyesight, as in with the work that they do. So anyway, that's my views on fame and stuff. So that was a little bit awkward sometimes, but still fascinating to see how people respond in the US. People are much more likely to come over, I think, in the US and approach you first of all. Over here, people are maybe a bit too shy and it comes across as rude, whereas over there they'll just come straight up to you, and sometimes they can be rude. So yeah, it's a tricky thing to get right. There's definitely a balance there. Sorry, I was just looking at my notes. Then we went to Wednesday. This was something I'm so excited to share with you. When I was out there, I don't know if people saw on Instagram or on Twitter, I said, I'm going to be in LA. Are there any LA knitters in the area who, with any suggestions or would like to meet up? And I did get contacted by Alex, whose surname is so complicated I'm not even going to begin to pronounce it. It begins with a W and ends in ski. Who is Suzumi13 on Ravelry. Hi Alex, how are you? She's a podcast watcher, and she got in touch and said, I live in LA, what are your plans? I'd love to meet up. And it was just so wonderful. I was so hoping that I wouldn't not be able to meet up. If someone had said, oh, I can do Thursday, and we had plans for Thursday or whatever, as it turns out, when she was free, I was free, and we met up for breakfast on the Wednesday. She drove up from wherever she lives in Hollywood, in LA, somewhere else, and she drove over to West Hollywood, and we met for breakfast. It was her, me and Ben. And it was just so lovely. I now know, Marcia and Audrey, how you guys felt when you made a connection through, through this podcast, but through the internet and through a shared love of something important to you both, which is knitting. I now know how you felt when you managed to meet up. And it was exactly the same, because Alex and I there'd been a few messages and stuff. She's posted in the group on the forums, but we didn't know each other, and yet she had reached out. You had reached out, Alex, and I'm so glad you did. It was so lovely to meet up and just get to know each other. Alex was wearing a wonderful cabled hat that she'd knitted herself. I was not wearing any knitted goods. It was LA and it was really hot, and I'm not used to it. But we chatted and had a wonderful time, and just really enjoyed making a connection with somebody that I would have had no contact with at all if it hadn't been for this podcast and what I do. And I've said before that the reason I'm doing this is because I want to engage with people, and that could easily be something that, oh, he's just saying that, he wants to sell patterns. It isn't that, it's partly that. But it's mostly I want to engage with people and make these kind of connections, and it thrilled me so much to have that come to some kind of fruition. So Alex, if and when you're watching this, mwah, it was just wonderful to meet you. I'm so glad you got in touch. It was a real highlight of my trip, so thank you. Then for the rest of Wednesday, Ben and I took another walk. This was stupid. We had no idea really how big LA actually is. I know everyone says you have to drive everywhere in LA, but we thought, well, we've been walking around West Hollywood and we walked into Hollywood itself, neighbouring neighbourhoods, and the idea that we couldn't walk to somewhere seemed so alien to us. Also, you're looking at Google Maps and it's so scalable, you know, you can fit anything on the screen. You tend to get fooled into the idea that anything that fits on the screen is the same size as anything else that fits on the screen. Well, you can put the whole world on the screen if you pinch it in it enough. So we wanted to go to the old zoo. There's an old abandoned zoo in LA, sort of the other side of the Griffith Observatory from where we were staying. And it really... Oh no, I'm a day ahead of myself. I'll talk about this now on it, and then I'll go... This was Thursday, so then I'll go back to after breakfast with Alex. So we trekked out to the old zoo and got as far as we could, and then thought, you know what, this is taking us hours, this really is crazy. So we found somewhere where I could get some Wi-Fi, opened up my Uber app, which is very, very useful in LA, and we got a cab to take us the rest of the way. And it dropped us off in the middle of this park, in the middle of nowhere it seems, and we found one of the park rangers or security guards and said, we're looking for the old zoo. And he said, yeah, it's that way. He said, but you can't go in, you'll be trespassing. And we thought, oh, it seems that trespassing is a bit of a a bit of a theme. And we didn't want to be trespassing, but we also wanted to go to the zoo. And we've seen loads of stuff on it. It was abandoned in the 60s, I believe, 1966, I think. And it's just all these cages and enclosures where animals were kept, and obviously no animals there anymore. And it's a tourist attraction, we thought. And when we got there, we found it, and there were loads of people there, and they were even setting up a stage to do some Shakespeare in the park in the middle of the zoo. I thought, well, what's he talking about? Clearly, what he was talking about is don't break into the bits that are wired off. But people do. And there are holes in the fences. And if you go through the holes in the fences, you can get into some of the cages and get the best photographs. So even though we'd been specifically told not to, we did. And we had an amazing time exploring. It's quite remarkable, and it shows you, I think it was built in the 30s, it shows you that animal welfare wasn't necessarily a high priority there. What was the priority was letting people see the animals. So there's sort of no shelter areas. The cages are kind of ugly and big, thick bars. It reminded me actually of our trip to Alcatraz when we went to San Francisco. Brutalist and quite unpleasant, but with a weird kind of beauty seen from now, and the fact that it's falling apart and crumbling. It's a big site as well. And so we climbed into some of the cages you can go into, and others you have to climb through holes in the fenced off bits. And we did both with equal aplomb, because that's who we are. But there's photographs that we took of us in various cages, and here's a little selection. It's fascinating to see it. Obviously, a lot of people go in. There's graffiti all over the place, and it's become a bit of a living work of art, actually. But it was really interesting to see something the like of which I've never seen before. And it was only afterwards that our friend said, "Oh my goodness, that's featured in one of the Police Academy films," and we absolutely didn't recognise it until she said that, and I thought, of course, I now remember. So that's going back to our Sandra Dee trip. We were just ticking off the movie locations. I guess when you're in LA, everywhere's been used as a movie location at least once, so that's not surprising, I guess. Then we had to try and get back. Now, as I said, this taxi dropped us off, and it felt like we were in the middle of nowhere, and it was going to be over a mile to walk down the dual carriageway road to get back to sort of a civilised part of the city, and we went into the little visitor centre and said, is there a way out of here on foot? And we went, no, not really. She was very helpful, but she was unable to help, so she told us there was a bus stop, and the buses went once every half hour. I thought, we've got to get back, we've got plans. So we did find the bus stop, and we waited, and eventually a bus did come. It was thankfully, the bus driver took pity on us. It was one of those buses where you don't pay the driver, you put the money into a little machine, it gives no change, it needs you to have the right change. We had nothing, we had like $50 bills and nothing smaller, no loose change either, apart from little bits of shrapnel. And I think it was going to cost us $3.75 or something for the pair of us to travel. $3, can't be that, $3.50 for us to travel. And we put in $1 bill and a couple of quarters, and the bus was already driving by this point, and we were checking our pockets and trying to find any little bits of loose change, and eventually the driver said, go and sit down. We didn't get anywhere near the actual fare, but as it turned out we weren't going very far. I think he was just pleased to get rid of us, so thank you to the bus driver for letting us travel for under fare. And then we got to a place where we could find some Wi-Fi and get a taxi back to our house. The reason I say I needed Wi-Fi to get a taxi is because I don't like using data when I'm abroad, because it costs too much money and my phone bill goes through the roof. And when we had Wi-Fi, there's lots of cafes and things in LA that have Wi-Fi. You can sit there and you can use whatever app you like to call the taxi. That's what we were doing. So that's why, if you're wondering, why do you need Wi-Fi? Just pick up the phone. It was because I was using the Uber app. So that was the Thursday day. And then, what did we do Thursday evening? Oh, do you know what? I'm going to jump back and forwards. I'm going to go back to Wednesday now, because there's more to say. Wednesday, after I'd met up with the lovely Alex for breakfast, this was where we took the advice of our previous Uber taxi driver, Svetlana, who told us that there was a trek you can do that takes you up behind the Hollywood sign, where you can look down on the back of it over the city. And we're like, that sounds amazing. So a friend of ours did some research, because he'd heard something similar, and he sent us some little screen grabs of Google Maps and of where we could park the car, and how we could find the entrance to the trail, and then how we could get up to the sign. It was amazing. We drove and we drove and we drove up and up and up, and getting higher and higher into the Hollywood Hills. And the views were already pretty spectacular, looking down over the city from these various different vantage points. It was like, you know that scene in E.T. where he sort of comes through the undergrowth and then sort of into a clearing, and you see the grid of the city, all in at night time albeit, all the squares of the grid of the city mapped out before him. It was like that. It may even have been the same place, I don't know, but it looked very much like that. You could just see the whole of the city. You could see the skyscrapers of downtown LA. You could look across and see the Griffith Observatory. It was getting really great. So we parked up and then found the opening of the trail, which is really, really hidden. You have to know it's there. We wouldn't have seen it at all if we hadn't been shown a photograph of it in the email that our friend Jamie had sent. And we started walking. And the landscape, it was like being in a desert. It was unlike anything I've ever known. The foliage was kind of black rather than green. Everything's kind of prickly. There's lots of succulent plants rather than sort of ferny or coniferous plants or deciduous trees that we would know. And it's very sandy. The soil is really, really sandy. It's a really alien environment to us. And we got to this point where there were a few people there. There's a sort of photo team of people. They look like they were modelling bridesmaids dresses, hideous pink things, awful meringue dresses, but an amazing car there, a lot of 60s Cadillac and stuff. It looked really, really special. And then we thought, well, the sign is that way, so let's head off in that direction. So we did, and we headed off in that direction, and we started walking up this trail to sort of get a skirt around this fenced-off building. We went around the outside, and a lot of signs on the thing saying, do not enter, trespassing, not allowed, becoming a definite theme. But clearly those signs were, don't go into this fenced-off bit, this building is out of bounds. So we carried on going round and climbing up the hill. And the hill became steeper and steeper at this point. And the trail became narrower and narrower, and at various points we were actually climbing and thought, this doesn't seem right. And then we could see sort of down the hill this way, there was a road that we hadn't noticed that was snaking its way parallel to where we were, but we were a little bit higher up. And we were on quite dangerous ground. And I'd said to Ben, listen, when we get to the top, I guess that road, it will be the way down. It's going to be much safer than trying to go back this way, because it's really steep and it's really sandy underfoot, and you know, we could so easily fall, and it was a long way up. A little bit of mountaineering going on. But we thought, well, we're nearly there. We can see the sign getting bigger and bigger. We stopped at various points and I took silly photographs like this one, and like this one. And we hadn't gone too much further than that last photograph when suddenly this... well, do you know what? I'm not going to talk about this. I'm going to show you a film of what happened when we got to the top. Here it is. Okay, my intrepid O-setters find me at the top of Cahuenga Peak in the Hollywood Park. It's quite extraordinary. The views around the city are amazing. And if you look sort of behind, over there, behind me, that's kind of the view to North Hollywood. But the most exciting thing is what's behind me this way, the city of Hollywood. And if I tilt the camera there, look at that. I'm actually above the Hollywood sign, looking down at it. There it is, all the way over there. It's the most exciting view, one of the most iconic things you've ever seen, and it's really, really fantastic. It's been a bit of a trip to get up here. It's taken us about an hour and a half to walk up from where we left the car. We got shouted at because we took a wrong turning on the trail, and we ended up sort of climbing up through this scrubland, and we suddenly heard this great big bullhorn, and this American voice just shouted at, "Hikers, you are trespassing. Return to the road immediately," from way up here. It was hilarious. I think they thought we were trying to get down to the sign itself. We weren't. We were just trying to get up to this point so we could look down on it from above. And here we are. So you can see we made it to the top. It was really exciting, and we had in fact been trespassing. So we then wandered down the hill and walked back up, and you know, we did it the right way. But it was quite an adventure. It really was quite spectacular up there. The views, which you can't really see in that video, over the back into North Hollywood and beyond, it's really very special. And of course the view of the city from there is just so beautiful. It took us a long time to get up there. It took us a long time to get back. And then we got back to the car and we found we had a parking ticket. We'd been so careful. We'd looked at the signage, and there was clearly some restrictions on when you could park, and we were convinced, absolutely convinced, that we were okay. It seems not. I don't know how we managed to misread it. So we paid $65, and we thought, you know what? We've got the use of our friend's car. We haven't had to pay to get here. He's been very generous with taking us to lovely restaurants and picking up the bill. So we paid $65 to go and see the Hollywood sign. It's not the end of the world. So we paid that online and went on our way, but it was like, it wasn't because we hadn't deliberately left it there thinking, oh, we'll be okay. We definitely decided it was okay in those hours, but clearly we were wrong. I'm still baffled. I still have no idea what we did wrong. Clearly what we did wrong was park there, I don't mean that, but I don't understand why that was the wrong thing to do according to the information that was on the sign that we'd seen. Who knows? And then back to knitting. I had wanted to see an LA LYS, and I'd put out any information, asking questions, saying any yarn shop people could recommend, and a few people said I should go to Unwind, which is up in Burbank. And we went off in the car and we found it and had a lovely, lovely time. We met up with Stephanie, who is the owner of the shop, and Cheryl, who works there as well. Hello to Stephanie and Cheryl if you're watching. Chatted to them a lot, and it's a really lovely shop. It's very interesting. There's just stuff everywhere. You've got fingering weight together and sort of different weights of yarn put together, but everything's sort of all put in together, so it's really like a big old stash dive. You go into one of these sort of boxes and you're not quite sure what you're going to come up with. I did buy some yarn. I was only going to get one skein. I didn't. I got more than one skein, but I'm going to save information about that until I do some Stash Enhancement stuff later on. But talking to Cheryl and Stephanie, they wanted to know a little bit about me and who I was, so I was telling them about how I such a fan of double knitting, and they asked why, and of course I waxed lyrical on the benefits of double knitting as opposed to single face knitting, and then we just got chatting, and it turns out that Cheryl makes some really lovely stitch markers, and some of them I'm going to talk about later on. So I keep sort of referring to stuff that I hope I don't want to confuse things, but I've got my little compartments in this podcast, and I want to keep things sort of compartmentalised because I'm a little bit OCD like that. I'm sure you understand and will forgive me. So that was a lovely trip to unwind. I had a great time meeting Cheryl and Stephanie, and a really lovely time in the shop, spending too much money. Who doesn't spend too much money when they go yarn shopping? Then on that evening, this is still Wednesday, goodness, that evening we met up with my very good friend Adam. Now I know Adam from New York, but he's been living in LA for about 18 months and I haven't had a chance to see him since. We would have seen him last year if I hadn't got sick, but we had to cancel him. And we had a lovely time. But you know, the plan was, he said, let's go and meet at Pump, let's go and eat at the restaurant Pump. Now Pump is a restaurant in West Hollywood which is owned and run by Lisa Vanderpump, who's one of the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. A programme I've never watched and will never watch. We walked into this restaurant, and the waiters were wearing pink shirts, and of course they're all beautiful. All the waiters and the waitresses are all glamour model gorgeous, and actually not glamour model gorgeous, glamorous and model gorgeous. I don't find glamour models gorgeous at all. They're surrounded by tubs of crystals with flames coming out of them, and everything it's so coiffured, it's gone into tacky cliche. It looks trashy, and I don't mind saying this at all. I hated it. I absolutely hated the place, and this was corroborated when I looked at the menu and couldn't see any vegetarian options. So I said to the woman behind the desk at the registration, I said, do you have any vegetarian options that maybe not on the menu? And she went, no, I'm sorry. I went, what? Nothing at all, and no way of coming up with something? No. Right, we won't be eating here then tonight. I was quite astonished that somewhere like LA would have places where you can't do vegetarian options, even in the steak restaurant, which, you know, it's a steak restaurant. The waiter who was looking after us, on hearing that Ben was a vegetarian, saying, right, okay, there's all this and this and this and this that's on the menu, which you may not like, but said if you don't fancy any of that, we can do this for you, we can put some of these things together, we can take these elements from these dishes and just not have the meat, we can put these together into something fantastic, bending over backwards to accommodate this woman. No, I'm sorry. I did not care for her. So we didn't stay there. We ate somewhere much more lowbrow. It was kind of this Tex-Mex place, and had a fantastic slap-up nosh, and all was well, and it was lovely to see my friend Adam. So then on the Thursday night, after we'd been to the old zoo, we then went to the opening night gala of Outfest, which is a queer film festival being held in LA. We were there as guests of John Cameron Mitchell, who, for those of you who don't know, he created and starred in the original production of Hedwig and the Angry Inch, and he's just reprised that role on the current production on Broadway. And Hedwig is a show that I did in London. I was the alternate for the first West End production, so I did every Monday night, playing the role of Hedwig for Michael Cerveris, who has just won a Tony for another role. Well done, Michael. And have got to know John a little bit. I wouldn't say got to know him well, but a little bit through that, and a little bit through his friendship with our host, our friend Matt. And so we were there as guests of him because he was being presented with a special achievement award for his contributions to LGBT filmmaking. He directed a film called Short Bus, which some of you may know, and various other things as well. He's quite a remarkable man. And as part of the evening, we were sitting in the Orpheum Theatre in LA, which is beautiful. oh, it's so opulent and so gorgeous. It's so different from the glamour of our theatres in the UK. It's a very American style of glamour, but really, really lovely. And obviously surrounded by everybody in the theatre, was either a gay man or a gay woman. I don't want to be limiting there. That maybe others, all sorts of other LGBT denominations within, but seemed essentially to be gay men and women, mostly gay men. And we were there to watch not only John picking up his award, but to see the first film that was kicking off the gala, which is called Tig, and it's a documentary about the comedian Tig Notara, who is a lesbian comedian who lost her mother and then was diagnosed with breast cancer in quick succession. And she did a gig the night that she got diagnosed, and her style is apparently very, she riffs on a subject, she sort of takes a few notes and then just talks, and she's very, very funny and very engaging. And that night, she didn't really know what to talk about. She'd just had this earth-shattering news, and having just lost her mother as well, her brain was all over the place, and she opened with, "Good evening, I have cancer," and went on from there, joking about her cancer in such an incisive, strong way, that the kind of stuff that would make you go, "Oh, I can't believe she's saying this," but it was okay because she was saying it about herself, and it was funny, quite extraordinary. And this documentary is how that changed her life, and how that gig changed her life, because it went viral, was released as an album, and how she fought cancer and won. Brilliant, and she was there as well. Big old party afterwards outside, where there was loads of wonderful food and lovely drink and lovely gay people, lots of gay people, and a good time was had by all. So thoroughly enjoyed the Outfest, and I think it's really important that there are festivals like that. And I know some people would say that this leads to the ghettoising of the gay community, but I think it's about celebrating who you are, and it's the reason why Pride marches are so important, because we have to be proud of who we are, because there are still people out there who don't want us to be who we are and don't want us to be anywhere where they can see anything about gay people. And I think the visibility of letting people see that I'm just like anyone else. I'm just like anyone else. I can't even qualify that any further. I'm just like anyone else, and my life doesn't affect yours. I think that's kind of important. Education and visibility, I think, are the key to breaking down the barriers of prejudice. So I think having festivals that celebrate people who make films about these topics is really important. So box on my podcast. Ooh. These things are important to me, and if you're a friend of my podcast, you'll be a friend of mine, and hopefully these things will be important to you, and if they're not yet, maybe they will be. Maybe you'll change your mind on things. I don't know. So then Friday rolled around. Friday was incredibly exciting. We went to Disneyland. Now, Ben and I, not really corporate converts, and were quite cynical about whether or not we were going to have a good time. We had an amazing time. It totally won us over. Now, in fairness, I think we, to use a phrase of a good friend of mine, were breathing rarefied air, and had an experience there that was unlike another experience at Disneyland might have been. The reason for that, there was a gang of us. There was Matt, Luke, Ben, me, and our friend Jamie, and Vanessa. Now, Vanessa was definitely the star of the day. Vanessa was our VIP tour guide. She obviously works for Disneyland, and she had been assigned to chaperone us around and take us wherever we wanted to go, to do whatever we wanted to do. And she was brilliant, and I adored her. Essentially, what this means is that she just walked us to the front of any queue for any ride we wanted to go on. I couldn't believe it. We went on 18 different rides, 2 of them twice. Now, a lot of these rides, we noticed when we arrived at them, it would say things like, queuing from this point 45 minutes, queuing from this point an hour and a half, sometimes more, and we didn't have to queue at all. At first I felt bad. I thought, God, if that were me and I'd been queuing for an hour and a half and some snooty people just cut in front, I'd be furious. But actually, it's dealt with really well. The whole premise of the rides is set up so that people guests of the park or important people, or just people like us who had a tour guide, can join the front of the queue at a slightly different place. So you're not actually walking in front of the people who have reached the front of the queue after diligent waiting. So you're actually joining the queue and getting on the ride before these people have even realised what's happening. So it seems a little bit sneaky, but it separates things, and it makes it a lot easier to bear because you're not annoying people. I think that's probably the best way of doing it. I wouldn't have wanted to annoy anyone, but oh man, we had such an amazing time. We went on everything. Splash Mountain, Space Mountain, the Matterhorn, the Cars ride, the Tower of Terror, the lift shaft drops down, the roller coaster, Star Tours, soaring over California. It's a Small World. Ben wanted to go on It's a Small World more than anything because he's heard so many stories of it sort of breaking down or people getting stuck in it. And we asked Vanessa, our tour guide, about this. And of course, working for Disney, she can't say anything against the company. She can't say anything negative. And we didn't want to push her into positions where she was feeling uncomfortable. But she said, how can I put this? She said, yes. Because what you may need to know is It's a Small World is a water ride, so you're in a little boat that takes you around this little river through lots of kind of creepy exhibits of people from all over the world dancing. It's like the creepy little puppets. It's a bit weird. But the boats were constantly getting stuck and getting grounded, and it was causing lots of problems. And Vanessa very tactfully said, as the size of some of our clientele has increased over the years, we had to adapt the ride accordingly to make the water deeper and the boats larger. Very, very diplomatically put. Well done, Vanessa. So we went on that as well. Just everything was brilliant. We had good food. We ate at a lovely restaurant there at the end of the day. Went on a couple of rides late at night and got incredibly wet. Just before we were leaving, we got absolutely drenched on this log flume ride. It just seemed the water just rose up and we were completely soaked. At one point we got off, I took my shoe off, I just pulled my sock out and wrung loads of water out of it. Those shoes didn't come home with me. They went in the bin that night because they were completely ruined. I didn't care. We had a fantastic time. And then Saturday was just get on the flight and come home. All of this happened a week ago. This last week, now I know I've been talking about my weeks for ages, but I haven't seen you for so long, so I hope you don't mind. This last week has been taken up with filming for the secret documentary that I can't talk about. Ben and I have had to sign non-disclosure agreements, so we really are bound not to talk about any of the specifics of it. But we went to Cambridge, we went to Madrid for 3 days, and while we were there saw some incredible flamenco dancing. Oh, it's just amazing. It wasn't touristy, it was Spanish. And it was real, and it was gritty, and it was powerful. And in the first number, there's the sheer power of the emotions of these people showing the earthiness, the just coming from the gut. It reduced both me and Ben to tears. We were both weeping. It was just that feeling of, just from the sheer power of their performances, amazing. So we got back from Madrid on Thursday and did some more filming on Friday. Still can't talk about it. Yesterday was Saturday, and I went up to Macclesfield near Manchester to do a wedding singing gig, which was brilliant. We thought it was going to be a bit of a nightmare because it got later and later and later, and we do our gig during dinner, and we're a surprise gig, so we're pretending to be waiters, and we can't give the game away. We can't say, look, we've got to perform and get on the road, because we're there as staff. But they decided to do all the speeches after the starter, which pushed everything back and back and back. And the speeches were quite long, and we thought, it's going to be really hard to get the energy of the room back up. But we had no reason to worry. These people were insane, and they just wanted to party and have a good time. So they lapped up everything we did. We got massive standing ovations halfway through. People were laughing and cheering, up and dancing. It was just brilliant. It was one of the best fun wedding gigs I've ever done. Followed by a 3.5 hour drive home. So I got home about midnight last night and slept till 11 o'clock this morning, and I got up to podcast for you guys. That brings us up to date. Woohoo! It's been brilliant, and I've said before, I have a very chaotic life, and I I really do. I bounce around like a pinball in a pinball machine from one thing to another, and I can't tell you how lucky and blessed I feel. Tilly Trout, hello Tilly, put in a post on Ravelry that she thinks I have quite an exciting life, or maybe I just make it look that way. And I responded to her saying, you know what, I think I possibly am guilty of making it look that way because I don't tend to talk about the bad stuff. And of course I'm human, and there are times when things don't go as well as others. But overall, I consider myself to be incredibly lucky to do the things I do and to have access to the things I've done and seen. And mostly, Matt, thank you for an amazing holiday. Thank you for that. Let's move on. So, community. There we go. That was a long edit point. Community. I want to start off straight away by jumping in with questions. I am still recording on both cameras. I wasn't sure if that one had stopped. Questions. There's Christopher from Washington State in America, who is Xtopher CB. I'm assuming it's pronounced Christopher CB, but with an X as in Christmas. Xmas. He says, I'm asking all my favourite podcasters if they'd answer the... Who's this? Let me get my camera. My laptop's not camera. Camera there. This is laptop. I'm asking all my favourite podcasters, thank you very much, if they'd answer the Bernard Pivot / James Lipton questionnaire. Now, I don't know what that is. I haven't yet done the research, which is bad podcastership. I haven't had time. So if anyone else wants to know, I'll try and put some information in the show notes. I've said it now, I'm going to have to do it. And maybe not all at once, a question per episode might be fun, but I think it might be fun to get rid of them all in one batch, so I'm going to do that. Interested, he says? Yes, I am. So here goes. I genuinely haven't planned what I'm going to say here, so I'm going to be thinking on the spot. What is your favourite word? Gosh, favourite words. I like anything that sort of feels nice in the mouth. I like the word bubble, and I like the word elbow. Maybe I like words that begin with B or have B's in them because there's a b-b-b-b-b-b-b. It's quite a satisfying sound to make. Let's go with bubble. I like the word bubble. Today, that's my favourite word. What is my least favourite word? That's quite a tricky one, actually. There aren't any words... I have a friend who can't bear the word pamphlet. He goes, oh, it's just so pamphlet. It sounds so sly and bleh. And he hates that word. I know a lot of people have problems with the word moist. Not saying anything about that. I don't have a problem with either of those words. My least favourite word would probably be something that has a negative connotation. So, unpleasant. Just because of its associations rather than because of the word itself. Unpleasant is my least favourite word. What turns you on? What turns you off? What turns me off is people being... It's again negative stuff. People being unpleasant. Injustice turns me off. Injustice makes me so angry when I see someone being unfairly treated, or something that's just not right. That winds me up. So injustice turns me off. What sound or noise do you love? Well, music. Music is the sound I love more than anything. Music is such a big part of my life, but I love birdsong as well. There's music in that. What sound or noise do you hate? I hate babies crying. I love children, in small doses. I hate the sound of babies crying in public places, and I know that's really difficult for parents who have children who... Stop time. Not a massive fan of that sound either, right outside my house, but I just think it's such a horrible sound. It goes on for too long and it just winds me up. I guess that's the point. I guess we're genetically predisposed to hate that noise, to want to make it stop, i.e. to want to go to the child and make it stop crying so it doesn't need to cry anymore. What is your favourite curse word? Well, this is a kind of family-friendly podcast, but here's the warning, I am going to say it, it's not too bad. My favourite swear word, as we call them in English, in England, is bollocks. Again, it's a B word. I think you can really get your mouth around it and give it some good welly, and if something goes wrong, oh, bollocks. It's a really, it's a really good word to spit out, and I thoroughly enjoy saying it. I was about to apologise if I've offended anyone then. You all know me better than that by now. What profession other than my own would I like to attempt? Well, that's kind of... The answer to that's kind of similar to what I actually do, so I'm sorry about that if it seems like I'm welching out of there. But I've always loved to be a conductor and have more training as like orchestral conductor. I've done a little bit of conducting in concerts and stuff, and certainly in recording studios, but I really, really enjoy it, and I'd like to go down that route a little bit more. What profession would you not like to do? Well, that's quite simple. I would not like to be a sewage worker. I salute anybody who does that for a profession. I cannot imagine it could be pleasant in any way, shape or form, but I'm very glad you exist. I'm very glad you do it. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates? Well, it's really, really difficult as a card-carrying atheist to answer what I would like God to say when I can't really entertain that notion. If heaven exists, there's too much paradox there, because if I answer that question, I'm sort of allowing the possibility. When you're dead, and I'm happy with that. I apologise to anybody who feels differently. I'm okay with you feeling differently, but I hope you're okay with me feeling differently too. So there, Christopher. I hope that answers your questions. Get myself into some trouble there. Well enough. And moving on to my other questions, moving on as quickly as possible, I think is the wisest answer there. Sophia from Stockholm in Sweden, who is USK or USK68, says, what is your favourite ABBA song and why? Oh, and she also goes on to say, any special memories to go with that song. Such an impossible question. It's like being asked what's my favourite musical. I love ABBA's music so much. I just can't pin it down. There are so many songs. I tend to like the ones that are not necessarily the most well known, but some of the album tracks are just brilliant. I love When All Is Said and Done. I love Soldiers. I love One Man, One Woman. I love The Day Before You Came, which is a single. I love As Good As New. I think though the song for me that really, and it is one of their biggest hits actually, and I'm not surprised, even themselves they like to think of it as a mini masterpiece, is The Winner Takes It All. It's a song that it just stirs me so much. The music is so simple. It's only two little phrases. You da 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 da. You got that bit. Da 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 da. That's basically the only two phrases. It's not verse chorus. It's verse 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 verse. Unusual structure for a pop song, and so much from the heart. It strikes a chord with me. I love it. So I would say probably that one. And Cinderai from Ontario in Canada, and I don't know your actual name because your profile doesn't give it away. But I've got a feeling I should know that because I think you may have messaged me. Is it Kim? If I'm putting the two things together correctly in my head, you're Kim. If not, you're Cinderai. You have said, what's my favourite yarn and what have I knit with it? Also, what is my favourite double knitting yarn, as in technique, yarn for double knitting, if different? Well, yes, they are different actually. My favourite yarn fibre is alpaca. I love knitting with alpaca. I may have said this before. I just love there's a silkiness to it, there's almost like an unctuousness. It feels like it's almost like there's a wetness to it, and I love working with alpaca, and I love the finished products. My Perplexus scarf was knitted in alpaca, and that is double knitting. And I thoroughly enjoyed doing it. I think for double knitting I prefer a smoother yarn, probably like a higher twist with less of a bloom to it, because often I'm working with colour, mostly working with colour with double knitting, and if anything gets a little bit fuzzy then it could blur the edges of the colour. So I prefer something like, I really do like Malabrigo sock for working in double knitting. It's high twist, it's very soft to work with, it brings a lovely texture, there's a lovely fabric at the end of it. So alpaca is my favourite fibre, but for DK, probably Malabrigo sock. And now we come on to, what did I do with them? I got them out. Oh, I don't know if they're not here. My weekly stitch marker giveaway from Joyce, who is Aussie Yarning and Aussie Yarning podcast, aussieyarning.etsy.com. Joyce gave me some wonderful stitch markers with my catchphrase OSAT on them and stuff for the boys, and I want to give away one set or one individual one each week. Now I don't have them to hand, so I can't do the draw, but rest assured you will get one, and I will draw it quite randomly. Now I've said that there's no specific question for this, but anything that happens in the forum that particularly appeals to me, that makes me laugh, makes me cry, makes me think, I will select somebody from a post in one of the threads on my group on Ravelry, which is Sockmatician. I don't think I said at the beginning of this episode, so for those of you who are new, you can find me at Sockmatician on Ravelry, Instagram, Twitter and YouTube. But on the group on Ravelry, if you've put something in there that makes me smile, laugh, think or cry, then there's a good chance you could end up with one of Joyce's sets of stitch markers. And this week, it's Julie from Newcastle upon Tyne, whose name on Ravelry is Jubble66. Now, Julie said, "Hi, I'm Julie from Newcastle upon Tyne, and having enjoyed your podcast for a few months, I've finally been spurred into joining your group." I was like, what could possibly have made her want to join the group, having not done so? By Elaine Page. I love this. For those of you who don't know, Ben's show, Brass, which I've featured here before, has recently... the title track from Brass, the song Brass, was played last weekend on the Elaine Page Radio 2 show, which is about musical theatre, and this is quite a big deal, and she played the song in its entirety. Elaine Page, big star in musical theatre from a few years back, known on both sides of the Atlantic. She's done a lot of stuff on Broadway, but was the original Grisabella in Cats, was the original Evita in this country, has done all kinds of amazing things. And she now hosts this radio show on the BBC Radio 2. And to get Brass played on it was a massive accolade. So I love the fact that Julie has been spurred to join my group by Elaine Page. We had her radio show on whilst driving to our holiday today, and she played a track from Brass. I was so excited to hear it on the radio. I think it was the title track. It was. It sounded great. She talked about how everyone had to raise money to make the CD and how important the NYMT is, that's the National Youth Music Theatre. A brilliant plug for Ben. Well, it is a brilliant plug for Ben, and I love the fact that it became a brilliant plug for you, Julie, to join my group. And that is, to me, where worlds collide. I work in musical theatre, and Elaine Page was the one who spurred you on to join my group. That made me laugh so much, so please PM me with your address details, and otherwise I'll just send it to Julie, Newcastle upon Tyne, and hope it gets to you. But there'll be a stitch marker set on its way to you. Congratulations. I hope you enjoy them. And thank you to Joyce, as always, for Zoe Knit Girl on... Zoe Knit Girl, I didn't say, is your Ravelry name. Aussie Yarning is your shop name. And thank you to you, as always, for the fantastic stitch markers. I love them. What else? What else in the community section? We have got... Oh, I'm moving on to stuff for the boys. Here it is, stuff for the boys. I was alerted to this website by Alex, who I met up for breakfast in LA. It's a website called addictedtosockknitting.com. It's not specifically boys stuff, but it's stuff. She makes things which are not either specifically girly. I'm going to do, once again, I do this all the time, I'm going to do the disclaimer. When I talk about stuff for the boys, what I mean is stuff that's not aimed specifically at being girly, pretty, pink. And I know there are lots of girls out there who don't like that stuff either, so this is also for you. Now, addictedtosockknitting.com is a site where, if you go to the shop section, I should find out who it's by actually. It says not a hobby, it's a life. I don't know who runs this. I haven't really looked into it quite closely enough. But if you go to the website, I'm sure you'll find out all the details. Addictedtosockknitting.com. If you go to look at her knitting bags, she's got plenty which are girly enough for those who like girly stuff. But there's also some fantastic ones, and I'll show you here. We've got some Marvel comics. You can see the two there in the centre, Marvel comic characters. And scrolling down, there's fabric here, which is Skull and Crossbones, which is brilliant, the red one there. And some Star Trek themed stuff as well. You can see the Starship Enterprise there in the top of your screen, and on the bottom there, Star Trek and Star Wars. So there's loads and loads of fabulous geeky stuff. And if you head to page 2, she's got some, if you head to page 2, if my computer will let me, it's not, I'm not going to, oh here it comes. There's more comic-based stuff. We've got Kapow and Zonk and stuff like that, Zoom. And some Daleks and some other Doctor Who themed stuff. Daleks, they're brightly coloured Daleks, and some TARDIS stuff down on the bottom. So there's loads of stuff to choose from. And her bags are $35 each, so I guess that you're based in the US. And I really like them, and I'm happy to channel people there. So if you like what you've seen there, head over to addictedtosockmating.com and check out the store. There we have it. That's my community stuff mostly wrapped up, I think. Not quite. I'm delighted to announce the winner of Mina's bag giveaway. This is Mina Phillip, who is Knitting Expat, and you'll remember, if you're a regular watcher, that she sent me a selection of bags she's been working on, made out of men's shirt material and things that she's repurposed, and I absolutely love them. And she sent me 3, a little sock-sized bag, a medium-sized bag, and a big one. And I organised a giveaway, and I basically said all you needed to do was say why you should have one, what makes you deserving of being the winning recipient. For the middle-sized bag, which is this one here, try and get it so you can see without too much glare on it. It's got this lovely appropriately coloured zip which matches the stripes, and inside it's grey, all made from shirt material. Really nice wedge-shaped bag, stands up very nicely on its own, although Mina herself has said she wishes she'd made the bottom bit wider, but actually Mina, it works very nicely. So, look there, standing up on my lap, no hands. So this was the bag for the giveaway. I've changed my mind. And there's a very good reason why I've changed my mind. It's not selfish. I'm upgrading the prize to the big one, which is this one, which is the big shirt bag, sweater size bag. It's got the pouch on the front for patterns, which is made from the shirt sleeve, which I absolutely love. It's got the buttons running down the back. On the inside, it's got another set of buttons all sewn down, so it's not going to snag or anything. And there's a little notions pouch because it's the breast pocket of the shirt, which is very perfect. And it also comes with a matching notions bag of its own, made from the same material, which of course are 2 governors a set. So this is now the prize. I wanted this for myself. I genuinely wanted it for me because I'm going to be starting to do a cardigan for Ben's mum, my mother-in-law, and it was going to fit very nicely in here. However, this is the post from the winning poster. So, congratulations to Cindy from Rochester in New York, who is Puffy Griffin Claw on Ravelry. Your post is this: thank you for introducing us to Mina's bags for the boys. I grew up with 2 sisters and 2 brothers, and my companions/playmates were my brothers. I was not a tomboy, but we made up all sorts of games for everybody, not just boys or girls. Good stuff. As an adult, I remain closer to my brothers. I assume you're close to your sisters too, but I'm talking about a particular special bond. I work in a career field dominated by men. I'm the only female in my firm. When I married and decided to have children, I had 2 boys. Through them, I became involved with Boy Scouts. Although they are now adults, I remain an active volunteer and spend a week of vacation every summer teaching merit badges to teenage boys. You cannot get enough of the boys, can you, Cindy? You really can't. So you can see... Oh, no, hang on. Much of what I knit is for the boys in my life. My sons, husband, brothers, nephews. My sons are the best people to knit for because they love everything I make them, and since they are tall and slender, they are easy to fit and everything looks great on them. I think that's brilliant. So you can see that much of my life has always been about the boys. Air quotes, but she put them there. Don't judge me. I've never been the pink fluffy type. I just love Mina's bags that integrate the shirt into their styling. I would love to pull out my lunch hour knitting in such a classy buttoned down bag and just dare my male co-workers to make any comments about their granny's knitting. Maybe I would finally hear about someone's granddad knitting. Well, sold. Cindy, absolutely sold. And because you were talking about how amazing it would be to have a buttoned down bag, this buttoned down bag will be winging its way to you, along with its matching pouch. I'm very sorry to see it go, but I'm incredibly happy that you're going to be getting your hands on it, because I too want to put paid to all of the things where people say that knitting's just for grannies, and I too would love to hear about someone's granddad knitting. It does happen, but not anywhere near frequently enough. So Cindy, please let me have your address on a private forum, and this will be winging its way to you just as soon as I can get it sent off. So congratulations to you. And Mina, as always, thank you so much. They're so generous. I will be very happy to be the owner of the tiny one and the medium-sized one as well. They will be very, very useful for me. Sad though I am to get rid of the big one. I'm glad it's going to a good home, someone who really, really wants it. So Cindy, congratulations. And Mina, thank you very much. Now we come to the scary bit for me. It's a bit that's making me cringe every time I think about it, and I wonder whether I should ditch it, but some people seem to like it, and that is, of course, What's Tat? This week, I want to talk about my astronomical tattoos. I have got the alchemical symbols for all of the planets in our solar system, which is all 9, because, as you know, I come from an era where Pluto was still a planet, and I care very strongly about it, which is why I put it into my heliocentric hat. It's actually my love of planets is why I put the heliocentric hat together in the first place, because I wanted to do the whole solar system. Not showing it to you today, you've seen it before. If not, check out the previous podcast episodes where I talk about heliocentric. But I have, in this crazy collection of tattoos on my arm, I've got the alchemical symbols for all of our planets. And I love them. They're kind of weird and quirky and a little bit mystical looking, and I've always been fascinated by our solar system and the planets contained in it. And as a kid, I used to just stare up at the stars for hours on end, which was why my trip to the planetarium was such a joy. So I'm coming over here so you can see, this circle with the cross lines in it, that's the symbol for Earth, and it's the shape of the Earth with an equator and a meridian on it. That's why it gets that shape. Moving around here, this one's upside down, so I have to contort my arm for you. This dark blue one here is the symbol for Uranus, and I do not shirk at all from saying it that way. It's called Uranus to me, and this symbol represents a circle, which is the planet, and with it above it is a stylized H, and that's for Herschel, who is the gentleman who discovered Uranus, whatever you want to say. Moving on from there, I have, where's the next one? I have this blue one here that kind of, some people say it looks like the number's 24. It's actually Jupiter. It's the symbol for Jupiter. And I can't remember quite why it's that shape. I've got more information about that in a moment. Here we have Venus. It's often used as the female symbol, but for me on my arm it's definitely symbolising Venus. Then this blue one here, this way up, this is Pluto. And it wouldn't be fair at all to leave Pluto out. So Pluto was always part of my solar system as a child, so that's why he's part of the solar system on my arm. Then we move on to Saturn here, which I absolutely love. Oh, I think, yes, I've just remembered, this is like a stylized Zeta, which stands for Zeus. It was, I don't know, something to do with Jupiter, can't remember. I should know all this. And there's my Saturn, and it's the scythe of whichever god is appropriate for that one. Then moving up to, where's my next planet? We've got over here, there's no way I can get my arm in the right position, but sort of that way around, looking backwards, there's Mars, also known as the male symbol. That's why I've got it bigger than the girly one. So there's Mars there, and we have this little purple one here is Mercury. You can see the horns on his helmet there. And then here we have Neptune. This is the trident of Neptune represented in green on my arm there. I absolutely love these symbols. They're so evocative of times gone by. Some of them, they have such history and heritage. They go back a long, long way. I've got some little bits of, you can see here on this page, you can see the representations of the symbols there that I have, and some others as well. There's the moon and the sun. Now I also have the moon and the sun. I may as well dispense with these while we're doing astronomical. I have the moon here, not really as part of my planets set, but because I'm born in June and my ruling planet, astrologically speaking, is the moon, and I've long had long had a love of the moon. Watching a full moon, looking at it, is the most beautiful thing in the world, and I think I'm a little bit governed by phases of the moon in terms of emotions. I sometimes get a little bit crazy, or I feel a little bit twitchy around full moon. I'm sort of restless more. So that's there, and I also have the sun at the top of on my shoulder there in purple, which again is for different reasons. There's the sun is largely figures in lots of different cultures in their mythology, and that represents that rather than as part of the set. But they're all part of the set, really. There's lots of crossover, I think, in different cultures and different branches of symbology. It turns out that you have, what did I want to say? Mars is a shield and a spear, apparently. The Jupiter is Jupiter's thunderbolt, an eagle, or the letter zeta for Zeus, who is the Greek god analogous to Jupiter. That's what I wanted to say. The Saturn, which is the one that looks with the Saturn, this green one here. That one is Saturn's sickle or scythe, and I think that's the bits I didn't cover. So there's going to be fewer episodes of What's Tat than there are tattoos on my arm, but it's good to sometimes get a few of them out of the way in one go. I hope you enjoyed hearing about them. Moving on. Okay, Stash Enhancement. Of course it was my birthday. Of course I was hoping to get some yarn, but I sort of expect that now people know that yarn is an easy thing to buy for me, so I sort of kind of expect that if a present is going to be coming from a certain person, it might be yarn. I wasn't disappointed. So the first things first, on my birthday itself, when we went into the lovely yarn shop in Brighton, Ben wanted to buy me something to add to the other things that he'd already bought for me. One of the things, I guess this counts as Stash Enhancement, he bought me Nancy Marchant's amazing book, Knitting Brioche. Nancy Marchant is absolutely the queen of brioche knitting, and the book, I haven't had a chance to fully explore it, because there's some things I want to work out for myself first before I see what she's doing in the book. But it's amazing. There's some lovely patterns in there which I may or may not dip into, and a load of technique stuff which is brilliant. So added to that, he wanted to buy me some yarn, and he wanted me to be able to choose it. So we went into the shop in Brighton, and I picked out this uncommon thread, hand dyed in Britain, and this is BFL fingering weight, 100% superwash, Blueface Leicester, 100 grams per 400 metres, so it's good yardage, which is what I like. It's this wonderful sort of olivey forest green, which I think, I wonder what it looks like on this camera. Let's go over here. That's actually probably more accurate to what it looks like. There's a lot of depth in the colour, a lot of heathering to it, although I wouldn't even class it as a semi-solid, but it's gorgeous. And I really like working with BFL. Outside alpaca, it's probably my second favourite yarn. This one feels really nice. Actually, do you know what? It smells a bit like lavender and peppermint, because I've got some of those oils in my stash box. But yeah, it smells more like smells I've added to it rather than being sheepy or anything. But it's really, really beautiful colour. I don't know what it'll be yet. I suspect it will be a pair of socks, although it's such a nice colour. Maybe it'll become a shawl of some kind. I don't know. But, Ben, I love it. Thank you very much. Then, this is also birthday yarn. After we came back from LA, we met up with Ben's parents, And the thing I love about being given yarn is it's not necessarily going to be stuff that I would choose for myself. And it challenges me to think, what would I do with this? There is no way I would have bought this type of yarn if I'd seen it in a store. Now that I own it, I want to do something with it. It's brilliant. It's cotton. I've never worked with cotton before. I think it's 100% cotton. Let me just check. Yeah, 100% cotton, which I have no idea really how it works. It's such strange colours. I've got 3 little balls of it, and here it is. Look at this. So unlike anything I've ever seen before, let alone worked with. I guess it's kind of self-patterning. I don't know whether that would come out in stripes or whether that's like those sort of opal sock yarns which have different patterns in them. Maybe it's something like that. There's 50 grams of each ball here. It's called Chimera by Adria Phil, the mercerized Egyptian cotton. I really don't know what to do with it. I love it. It's got a very sort of silky sheen to it. I don't know if that's picking up on screen, but it looks like it could be 100% silk. This is not going to be socks. This probably will be something to be worn, I think it's a shawl, almost certainly. Any ideas, let me know what you would do with this. It's 150 grams of it, and the yardage is... I'm not sure it actually says. Oh, I think it's 135 metres, if that's possibly what that means. 135 metres, and I've got 3 lots of 135 metres. What could I do with this? How interesting. About 400 metres there. Interesting stuff. That wasn't all. Also, now, this is, again, playing straight to my loves, but also offering me something new. I've got 2 skeins of this wonderful alpaca silk lace from Artisano. Look at the depth of that colour purple. It's so deep and dark. Isn't that just extraordinary? It's silk and alpaca. The mix is... I can open this up. The mix is 70% alpaca and 30% silk. And it's lace weight. And I've never worked with lace weight yarn before, believe it or not. I've done some lace work, but always in fingering weight, so it comes up bigger. This is so deliciously soft. It's got that lovely oily feeling without being oily that I was talking about earlier, being from the alpaca, but so beautifully soft with the silk and that lovely sheen to it. It's absolutely beautiful. I'm really looking forward to working with this. I hope it doesn't stay in Stash too long. I've got lots of projects on the go at the moment, but I'm really looking forward to it because it's going to feel so amazing working through the fingers. Can't wait. Then, going back to LA, here's the little bag of goodies that I bought from Unwind. Unwind is in Burbank, I don't know if I said that, which is a suburb of LA, district I suppose. Local yarn expert since 2004. Now I just couldn't decide between the 3, so I got all 3 skeins of yarn that I was really looking for. This one is the first one here. It's Mountain Colours Incorporated, beautiful hand-painted yarns, and from MT, is that Montana? I think that's Montana. 90% superwash merino wool and 10% nylon, so it's going to be a good sock yarn. It's quite a thick sock yarn, so potentially sort of sport weight. Approximately 100 grams skein, 425 yards. So maybe it's not a sport weight, but it feels like it's quite thick. Look at these wonderful colours. It's called Harvest. I'm seeing it's matching almost entirely the colours of the Greek fire behind me, but it's actually got some sort of dark greens in it and dark blues, as well as these russet oranges. There's some more dark green stripes there, these deep reds, burgundies, browns. There's a lot of colour in there. You can get a real sense of the colours there. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's not the softest yarn in the world, but it's not scratchy at all. It's really high twist. I wonder if I can show you closely enough. Where it will maybe. Oh, look at that bleaching out there. That's not working very well. You can see there's better. The twist on the yarn. So it's going to be a very smooth yarn. I don't think it's going to bloom at all. I love that. Really, really love it. It feels very dense. It's got a real sort of strong structure to it. So I think it will be very good for socks, but they'll feel like chunky man socks, which I love. And then, now I've got a bit of a yearning for all things turquoise at the moment. I don't know why. It's never been my favourite colour, but at the moment I seem to be obsessed with turquoise yarn. I can't wait to show you this colour. I have no idea what it's going to look like on screen. This is from Knitted Wit, Fine Treasures from a Sassy Girl, who's from Portland in Oregon on the west coast, northwest coast of Scotland, I was going to say there, of America. And this is 380 yards, so it's a little bit less, but still enough for a good pair of socks. Look at it. Oh, it doesn't look anywhere near as blue on screen. I was hoping it would really, really show up well. This is the most vibrant blue you could possibly imagine. You can see actually it's thrown off the white balance just by putting it on the camera. There you go, things change there, don't they? Let me try this camera over here. That's a bit more like it. It's it still doesn't look as fabulous in this camera. No, take my word for it, it is the most extraordinary colour. It's really bouncy. Again, very, very high twist. You can see there how it's plied. So it's going to do really, really well for socks. And it's 100% superwash merino. So no nylon content, but it's really, really soft. It's really lovely. And because of the high twist, I think we'll be okay. I love it. And this colour not showing up on here at all, clearly not going to do it justice. If you could see it in the flesh, it just goes bang right in your face. Amazing. Then finally, this was a bit of an impulse buy. This was quite expensive. This was $40, and I really like it. It's from Sweet Georgia, the yarn company, and it's their merino silk fine fingering yarn. And the colourway is bourbon. I don't know why. It's 50% fine merino wool and 50% silk. I mean, what am I going to do? How on earth was I going to walk out without it? It's 380 yards per 100 grams, and it looks like this. Oh, the colours. Oh, look at it. The greys going to the creams, going to brown, going to varying type shades of blue here. Such unusual colours with this sort of mustardy yellow here. So unusual, certainly for my colour palette, although a bit of turquoise going on. It's clearly a theme for me right now. It's so beautiful. It's so absolutely gorgeous. It feels so soft. I have no idea what it'll look like when it comes out of the skein. But it's really luxurious. It would make an amazing hat. I think it's so soft and so warm. I think it's got hat written all over it. Not enough to do a shawl with, really, but just the most gorgeous. Really feels fantastic. Again, really nicely plied, so it's not going to bloom too much. There's hardly any fuzz on it at all. You can see there. It is so wonderful. It's one of those skeins which is a bit of a prize to have in your stash, and you sort of think, I might just like to keep it as it is. But that would be a real shame, because it is gorgeous. I can't wait to work with it. So that's my yarn stash acquisition, and my book, of course, my Knitting Brioche book. Now, I got a birthday card from my friend Michelle Hazel. Hello Michelle, who I've already mentioned here on the podcast before. She's a brilliant tech editor and has helped me out loads in the past. And if you are looking for any information about tech editing, or if you need some done yourself, contact her. She's Knit Sticks and String, or just Sticks and String. I'll check. I always get those two muddled up. I think she's one on Twitter and one on Ravelry, but I'll check it and I'll put the information. The correct answer is here now. And I got this wonderful birthday card from her, which I have placed here. Very sweet. Wishing you a happy birthday. And inside it said, I hope you like the enclosed stitch markers. I've returned to my roots, brackets, Dad was a radio engineer, and started making them out of old resistors, all inspired by some bloke with a podcast talking about stuff for the boys. Well, Michelle, if If that's true, and this has been a catalyst for you to start doing something so wonderful, then I could not be more pleased. And even if it's not true, you're still doing something wonderful. Here are my stitch markers. And I deliberately haven't said thank you yet because I wanted to wait until I had a chance to do it on this podcast. I love these. They are tiny. Let's see if I can make it focus on that. They are absolutely, it's not going to work, is it? They are tiny, and let me come over to this camera and look at them there. They're just brilliant. These wonderful, wonderful little resistors from radios, and one difference so you can have a start of the round marker and other markers for your little set. They're just gorgeous. They're absolutely brilliant. You can see, here's my little fingernail. You can see just how tiny they are, and they're not going to cause. They're so thin as well. They're not going to cause any sort of separation of stitches or anything like that. Lovely tiny. They'll be great for complicated sock patterns. So you're not going to get massive needles through them, but sometimes you don't want massive rings on little needles. So it's great to have some that are specifically for smaller sizes. Michelle, thank you so much. I genuinely got incredibly excited when I saw these. Partly because it brought back some amazing memories of my physics classes at school, where, not being very good at physics, sometimes I would take the resistors, I can't remember, the resistors, and they would have the bits of metal come off either side, and what I would actually do with them is fashion a little ring for myself and wear them on my finger, rather than put them to good use in anything to do with physics. And then I grew up to be a gay man, who'd have thought? So, so Michelle, thank you very, very much. They are brilliant and I love them. So if you are, I don't know if you're selling them, perhaps you are. If you are, I shall let me know and I'll channel people over to your website and we can get that linked up. Thank you, I love them. So, whips. I've got a new one. I did say I was going to just sort of finish what I've got because of my elbow problems, which is not going away, by the way. I have to say I'm getting worse. It's because I'm still knitting. But I do want to finish what I'm up to. The first of my whips is one that you have seen before, but it is nearing completion. It's my piano fractal scarf, the first of the set of 3. And here it is. It is getting longer and longer and longer. It's currently about 6 feet long. I want it to be 7. So there we go. And of course on the reverse side you get the opposite colours. This is all based on the Giuseppe Piano space filling curve, which I've spoken about at length before. If you haven't seen any of the other episodes and don't know what that is all about, Piano is spelled P-E-A-N-O, Piano. And if you look up Giuseppe Piano or just Piano space filling curve, there's loads of information on Wikipedia. I'm loving this. It is becoming really cosy and really lovely. I mean, it's essentially long enough now. I could have stopped at the end of the last pattern repeat, but the full pattern repeat is actually from the end of the scarf up to that point. You see that sort of blue line that goes across almost unbroken until you get to the end. That's one full pattern repeat. I could stop at this point here, which is the half pattern repeat, but I've decided I want to do one more full pattern repeat, and I'm about here. So I've got about another 60 rows to go. Then it'll be just over 7 feet long. It is so delicious to wear. I mean, it's really, really snuggly. It's quite thick. It's not very wide, but it's really thick. And the fact that it'll go round twice, it's going to make a really, really long and thick, comfortable scarf. But because it's quite such a structured look, I think it'll look quite good as a formal piece as well. I've got some ends in there from the ball change, but so it's quite neat and tidy, so it'd be great with an overcoat or something like that for evenings out. I'm really, really loving it, thoroughly enjoying knitting it. I've got to the point now where I don't need to look at the chart at all, so even though it's quite a complicated pattern, it makes so much sense, and every now and then you get 8 rows which are just 2 and 2 and 2 and 2 and 2 and 2 and 2 all the way across, so you get plenty of time off. Then you get a little bit of more complex stuff, but it makes so much sense, and you can refer back to, it's so repetitive, you can refer back to it, so you can come off chart fairly quickly. I've not looked at the chart for this for months, and I've not or weeks, and I've not made any errors. Certainly not more than ones where you go, oh, made a mistake, I'll fix that. I'm loving it. Nearly there. I was really hoping that I would be able to have finished it and show it as an FO today, but not quite. My next whip, something I've just started. Now, you'll remember that I showed you the beginnings of some brioche work that I was doing last time. So brioche is definitely becoming a thing for me, and I'm really loving it. I've started working with the yarn that I bought from Wild and Woolly recently, which is this Rico Aran weight. The colours are gorgeous. Do you know, I'm a little bit disappointed with the wool. I love it, I love the colours, and it feels really soft. It actually, when it's knitted up, it's a little bit scratchy. And this is a scarf for my niece that I've started. This is, she doesn't watch this, she doesn't even know about this podcast, so I don't mind talking about it. It's going to be her Christmas present. And I'm really happy with the way the pattern is evolving. It's my own design, and it's brioche all the way through. But it's a little bit scratchy, so I may have to knit it again with some nicer wool. However, here it is. I'm incredibly proud of the way it's coming together. Let me just sort of tidy it up so you get the best view. And hang on, I'm a bit tangled and I don't want to show you the tangles. So this is what we've got so far. So you can see it's this wonderful brioche rib where you get this fabulous squishy texture with the odd little cable, and the cables dance around and get more and more concentrated as you work up the scarf until you get to the middle section, which is cabled a lot and will continue to be cabled all the way up through the middle section, and then the plan is that at the end they'll gradually peter out in a mirror image of this. So both ends of the scarf will be just a plain rib working towards a middle section which is much more complex. Then of course the joy of brioche is it's utterly reversible. You get the different colours playing on the other side, and there it is. So here you can see it in a bit more detail, I guess. There, and on the other side again, looking like this. It's really fun to play with. I've said this before, I'm working the two-colour brioche with a two-handed method. Most people will be working brioche in this way with two passes of one colour at a time. I find it so much easier to do it both in one, and people who are subscribing to my channel will have noticed that there's been it's not even a tutorial, it's a demonstration of how I've amended what was the perceived way of doing two-colour brioche with two hands, because it wasn't creating quite the right fabric. Well, I thought about this from a sort of intellectual point of view, realised why it was creating the differences, worked out how to make the change, and it's so easy, it's so simple, that now I've got true brioche, exactly the right fabric, and it's so easy to do. So rather than having to work every row twice with one colour at a time, which is great if you're not used to manipulating two colours at a time, but as a double knitter that's what I do most comfortably, so for me it makes sense. And the mechanics of working double knitting and this method of doing brioche are so similar, it's so easy to just, in my head, to go from one to the other. I'm loving this scarf, I'm genuinely loving it. It's really, brioche is really super stretchy, even the cast on is really fantastically stretchy, and you get this texture which goes horribly green in that light. Let me show you this one. The texture is just so wonderful. You get each stitch has its little brioche yarn over shawl sitting around its shoulders, and on the back it looks like that. It's just lovely. So the texture's lovely, even though this wool is not it's quite scratchy, it turns out, I didn't realise, but it's still a lovely squishy fabric, and I'm loving that. So that pattern will be coming out soon as I can get off my backside and start writing stuff up. I haven't actually taken any notes yet, I'm going to have to backwards engineer what I've done with that one, but hopefully it'll be fine. Now moving on, FOs, I've got some, hurrah! Since the beginning of this podcast, I've been talking about my gilt socks. They are finally finished. You'll remember that last time I realised that I wasn't going to have enough yarn to finish them exactly the same. I'd used more than half the skein for the first sock, I'd done it too long. I did some calculations to try and think, well, how can I, obviously you can't shorten the foot, how can I shorten the length of the leg and still not make it really feel like I've done too much difference? I had a bit of a disaster. My calculations went all wrong. I got to the end of the sock, the end of the foot, I was playing yarn chicken, and even before I'd started the toe, I ran out. Now, I've said quite a lot about these socks in the past that because I had already finished one. Do you remember I showed you the finished object? Here it is, for those of you who may not be familiar with it. Very nice simple pattern there, with lovely texture. It's fiddly to knit, it's not difficult, it was fiddly and I wasn't enjoying it hugely, but I was looking forward to the end result, which I knew was going to be nice, and it is. I like the end result, it's lovely. I just knitted this bit too long, used up too much yarn. So when I got to finishing this one, which, you know, I got to the end of it, thought I'd done my maths correctly. No. I had choices. I could rip them both out and start again, and I hadn't enjoyed knitting them anywhere near enough to make that a feasible idea. I could rip back the toe of the other one and do both socks with a contrasting toe, but the reason why I wouldn't do that is because I want to write this pattern up, and I want it to be something that people can knit with one skein of yarn. I'm not interested, for this particular pattern, in doing it in contrasting colours, even though obviously that's a perfectly viable option. So what I did was I just got my closest match from my scraps yarn and I knitted a toe. These two colours of green do not go well together. One is a yellowy green and one is a bluey green, and it's pretty revolting as a colour combination. I'm not going to go and do a similar toe on the other one because this was a scrap and I don't even have enough yarn left of this colour to make that work either, and to be honest I can't be bothered. So what I will do is I will take some better calculations and I will shorten the length of the leg when I'm writing on the pattern, and I will photograph them very cleverly so that the good toe is hiding the naughty toe, or it's just the good toe that's in focus, and no one except my intrepid osatters like you guys will be any the wiser, and you won't tell a soul. Drat! These socks have been the bane of my life, and I was so looking forward to finishing them, and I did it all wrong. I'll still wear them, it'll be fine, just not quite what I was looking for. It's not all good. Now, I'm going to actually do a quick edit here because I need to go and get my other FO, which is not to hand. Foolish Nathan. I'm back. Now, I've finished the brioche hat. Oh, I am so excited by this. This is one of the most exciting things that's happened to me since I discovered double knitting a couple of years ago. I was playing around, as you know, and I've just discussed with the two-handed brioche. I was doing it in the... Excuse me, I've got the hiccups and the burps. Hiccups, if you will. And I was playing around with doing it in the round, and I wanted to do some cabling, and then I thought, well, this doesn't need to be a swatch. Let me make it into a hat. I'd because I was using the ends of the wool that I'd been making this with, and I had been just sort of playing around, kind of swatching, but the swatch was so nice I wanted to turn it into something. I didn't want to undo what I had done, so I went out and bought some more yarn. You know about this from the last story, so I got last episode, I got a different colour that matched very nicely, and I'm so happy with the results of this hat. Forgive me, there's one end which I need to sew back in, it's popped out at the top, ignore that. But what I love about this hat is it's got a completely different coloured brim from the rest of it, and it's all in this cabled two-colour brioche, and it looks like this. I love this hat. I absolutely love this hat. Let's just see it in the light here. It's got so much texture to it, so much colour change. I love the fact that there's the two different colours here, and being the brioche double work there, you can turn it inside out and have the black more prominent on the hat, and the brim more prominent with the orange there. So forgive me for looking off, I'm trying to see what it looks like on camera for you. I absolutely have loved working on this. The crown of the hat is probably easier to see on the other side. The crown of the hat, probably easier to see on the other camera. It looks like this. It's got the the cables kind of just eat themselves up into these decreases, and on the inside they're completely 100% reversible decreases, and you get the opposite colours shining through. It's so complex to look at and really, really simple to knit. And this was knitted with Cascade Heritage 440 sock yarn, which is really, really soft. It's just, I am so happy with this. People would have seen me on Instagram wearing this, I'm sure, but I absolutely love it. You could do it with just 2 colours, one set of colours, or as I've done, with the black going all the way through and the 2 different colours on the brim and the head of the hat. I love it. I absolutely love it. Look at those cables. They're so beautiful and so elegant. And the hat is brilliant, and I'm so happy with it. That sounds really arrogant. I've made a hat and I think it's brilliant. I really love it. I can't help it. So the centre section of this scarf is the same pattern as this. So the middle of the scarf will look as sort of fabulously complex as that. That's the plan, and that's the finished hat. Brioche. I tell you, Stephen West is right. Brioche is the stitch of 2015, and brioche is where it's at. I'm enjoying it so much, I'm going to be doing lots more of it. I'm not planning to turn my back on DK at all. I may even try to combine the 2. Now, I'm going to wrap this up. This episode, excuse me, has been a monster. It's a monster, and is now a finished object. But remember, life is a work in progress. Just take it one stitch at a time. It's been delightful talking to you. I've missed you all. I wish you happy knitting times, and I will get editing as soon as I can and post this episode, and I hope you enjoy it. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.